Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to the Fourth Branch Show with your hosts, Ted Visner and David Scheid.
I am American. That's what I am. It's what I say and what I do.
Government is not the solution to our problem.
I am American. That's what I am. Red, white, and blue.
Government is the problem.
And I bleed red, white, and blue.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Hello and welcome to the Fourth Branch Radio Show. I'm your host, Ted Visner, and David Scheid will be joining us here shortly. And today is August 25th, 2017. And I need to do a mic check here. Okay, looks good. Again, David Scheid will be joining us here shortly. He's finishing up on another call. Tonight's topic, like it has been mostly all summer, is building the plan for unity. If this were so easy, if this were something that could be accomplished with no effort, it would be done already. And we're here tonight and every Friday night working on the plan to create unity between the different groups that are trying to accomplish the certain different things, all in their own way. This is an effort that's not meant to take over, capture, control, or do anything like that with what other groups are doing, but just to ask segments of the different groups to come on board and assign, if you will, a unity coordinator that can work with other groups and, just start working together. I mean, it's really ridiculous that, we can't understand the importance enough having to do with unity, why more people aren't working more actively on it. So that's the purpose of the show tonight, and we have a special guest calling in from Florida. Let me bring her on here. Her name is Hillary. Hillary, I'm turning your mic on now, so you should be live. Welcome, Hillary.
Hello.
The Fourth Branch Radio Show. Would you take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Hillary Caskey, and I am.
Hillary, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello.
Hello, Hillary.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, this is Mike. I'm on.
Mike, radio check. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I might be having some technical difficulties here. Mike's on with us live from Florida. Hello, Mike. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay, seems like we're having some technical difficulties here. Mike, chime in when you can. Your mic is hot. And again, just to expound on what we're trying to do here is bring people together through unity by creating a unity coordinator inside of the different groups that are actively working every day to achieve objectives that have to do with how screwed up things are being run here in our country. And it looks like Hillary's called back. Hillary, your mic is hot. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, apparently I'm having trouble with my headset here.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Mike, I'm going to stop talking. Ask that you take over while I perform. I think I fixed it. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I'm hearing you fine, Ted.
My apologies again. Technical difficulties. With us tonight, we have a special guest that Mike invited at our last show. Her name is Hillary. She's from Florida. Hillary, could you take a minute and introduce yourself if you haven't already?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm sorry. I can hear you now.
Okay, great. My name is Hillary. I'm basically just a mom here in Florida, and I've run into the nanny state run amok, and I have found that there was no one there for me the first time. It's actually happened twice, and the second time I'm trying to be there, for other people that, because it's just horrible what's going on.
Well, that's an understatement, to say the least, Hillary. We're glad to have you with us tonight. What is your particular experience with the Granny State? I mean, do you want to share anything that happened to you directly, or?
Yeah, sure. Well, we're going to have to travel back in time a little bit here, because my first encounter came in January of 2011 when my son was barely 10 years old. And he's been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And he was attending a local elementary school here. He was in the ESE program, which is for it stands for Exceptional Student Education. It's for children with mental or physical disabilities, learning disabilities, things like that. And because of his anxiety disorder, he was in this program. Well, sorry, I have laryngitis, so my voice is a little harsh. He was 10 years old. He had a temper tantrum. And according to the paperwork, which I still have, the teacher wrote down that the incident of 126 of contacting CSU, which is the Crisis Stabilization Unit, the mental health stabilization unit, was a law enforcement decision. Teacher did not feel that mom needed to be called prior to SRO, school resource officer, arriving, because Solon, which is my son, was using his cool-down tools. Now, what had happened then was he had a temper tantrum. The tantrum was over. He was sitting at his desk. He had his arms folded and his head down. And he had one of the legs to the desk was sitting on top of his foot. And he was kind of rocking the desk back and forth on his foot. And the school resource officer came in, told him to stop, and when he did not immediately comply, he was tackled from his desk, handcuffed, drug out of school, placed into the back of a squad car, and driven to the mental hospital before anyone picked up a phone to call me. Now, my son was so traumatized by this that I actually had to pull him out of school and homeschool him for about 3 years. And, he couldn't even handle watching cops on TV. If the TV show came on, he left the room crying. It was a very traumatizing experience for a little boy. And even though he was Baker acted, he spent until the next morning in the hospital, and he was immediately released. The psychiatrist said he did not meet criteria. The school overreacted. He did not need to be there.
Wow.
Hey, Hillary, this is Mike. Can I ask you to explain to everyone what it means in the state of Florida to be Baker acted?
Oh, absolutely. The Baker Act is Florida's mental health law, and it was put into place in 1971, and it was named after the Representative Baker who made the law. It was actually intended to keep people out of the hospital, to keep people free. It's, of course, been taken and twisted. The criteria for Baker Act is that you are mentally ill and that you have refused voluntary treatment, and that without this treatment and without the interference of willing friends or family members and the provision of other services, you would pose a harm to yourself and others. And they've basically taken this, especially in the case of children at school, and simplified it down to they believe the child is a threat to themselves or others, period. And they don't even call you to let you know that something's going on.
Well, those are stacked up constitutional violations if I ever heard them. That's like insane. I'm
sorry, like I was saying, that was just the first time. Now, my son, when he got about 7th grade age, about 12, 13, he decided that he wanted to have some more friends. He wanted to try going back to public school. So I was proactive. I went to the school board. I went to the school. I set up in advance his current ESE, part of which was no contact with the police without a parent present. He was a perfect 4.0 student, made National Junior Honor Society, which means not only his grades were perfect, but his behavior was exemplary for the entire year. He made it to sophomore year of high school, and then he received a death threat personally addressed to him, written on a public restroom wall at the school. And he was caught writing a response to the death threat, kind of like a kid. His response didn't have any kind of, I'm going to kill you, nothing like that. His response was basically a couple of expletives and come get me. He was given 2 days of internal suspension, which was more than reasonable for writing on the school wall. And apparently while he was serving his first day, which was the same day, he put his head down while in detention, trying to calm down, and he got in trouble for that, got sent to a different office. While in that office, he had some scabs on his knuckle from punching a wall about a week earlier. And once again, we're talking about a 16-year-old boy here. So he's taking a pencil and he starts picking at these scabs. I get off of work at 6 o'clock that night. They sent my kid home on the bus like nothing went on. I got 2 phone calls on my voicemail. One was from the dean of schools saying that he had gotten in trouble. The other one was from Miss Chamberlain, who is the ESE liaison for the school, just asking me to please return her call as soon as possible. So I went ahead and sent him to school the next day, which was a Tuesday. And I placed calls to both of those people at the school starting at 7 a.m. No one called me back. No one answered their phone. At 11:30 a.m., I get a phone call from another representative of the high school telling me my son is in an ambulance on his way to the emergency room and that he is once again being sent down to the mental hospital.
May I break in for a moment? This is David.
Absolutely.
I've been a special ed teacher for a long time, both in California and in Michigan, and so I know the federal laws and the purpose of the laws, IDEA, and that is to give every school-age child an equal opportunity to an education, and the school district. Obviously, I would assume that your son had an IEP.
Yes, he did.
Okay,
does,
so at any point in time, the parent can always ask for another meeting, and because what's working is not working, and or what has been set up as the plan, so to speak, is not working. And obviously there needs to be a behavior and I would be sure that everybody would believe that there's a behavior plan that needs to be set into place. as part of the IEP, which makes it incumbent. I'm finding as a teacher that the administration doesn't like actually implementing those behavior plans because it makes it incumbent upon them to enforce it, on the teachers and everybody else involved once the agreement is made on what the behavior plan is going to be. The child also is supposed to be part of that plan, especially at the high school level, and so they can. But if the child isn't being cooperative, really two things are typically happen. One, the plan changes a couple of times to see if they can find a way to accommodate the child, and because what the child, apparently that didn't work. So you try to tweak the plan, and once that doesn't happen, then alternative, education is usually the other alternative, unless he's already in an alternative school. So that's just an overview of how it typically goes. But I've been finding that because the school districts are lacking the funding, and the teachers are already pretty burdened with other behavioral issues, from both the students and from the administration, that they don't want to put the funding into making these things work. And sometimes that requires an aide to be hired, or any number of options that the parent, as well as anybody else, can suggest. And I'd recommend at all times when you go in to IEP meetings, especially with this kind of a history, to go in with a special needs advocate, which there is in every city, and start people on your team to deal with the school's team, because their so-called IEP team, which is supposed to be in favor of your child, is not really as it appears. It is the government's team trying to, and they can and will pitch themselves against you and your child. So, you can even go with an attorney to those IEP meetings, and, which they don't like that either. But you have every right to do that.
Right. I'm actually bringing my attorney to our upcoming IEP meeting, and they're a little uptight about that. They have to have the district's attorney there as well. But if I can get a little bit specific about my son's IEP, his contact with the ESE program was really quite limited. It was, as I said, he was supposed to have no contact with the police without a parent. Like, he didn't even take the DARE classes. And that part of the IEP was never taken out. And other than that, it was just supposed to be if he felt overwhelmed, he was supposed to be able to put his head down to relax or take a walk or whatever was necessary to avoid a meltdown or a shutdown. And on this particular day that all of this went down, because he had picked a scab the day before, they called in the school psychologist, who had about 3 hours of meetings with my son. At no point in time did anyone pick the phone to call me. My son was brought in to be questioned by the school resource officer about the death threat. According to my child, the school resource officer was very bullying, accused him of writing the threat to himself to get attention, and suggested that my son be suspended right away before anything went down. And then when they finally decided, after 3 hours of browbeating and asking my child to sign an illegal contract stating that he would not harm himself or the child that threatened his life, when he said no, he would not sign that contract, and he told the school resource officer, F you, I'm done talking to you, they decided to Baker Act him, and he resisted and he fought for his freedom. And I even have the officer that actually did the Baker Act on video in the emergency room stating that I gave him a scenario of the resource officer told my son he was being Baker Acted, put his hand on my son, at which time he started to fight back. And the Baker Acting officer says, no, not at all. According to a student witness, my son was tackled from behind as he tried to leave the room. The video, the only video that exists, is a Snapchat video taken by another student, and it shows my son face down on the ground underneath two grown men, one of whom is the school resource officer, and it appears that that officer is hitting my son in the head with a set of handcuffs. But, of course, the police department has cleared themselves of all wrongdoing.
Yeah, they're really good at doing that.
Yeah. But, yeah, this was all, at any point in time, somebody could have picked up the phone and said, we're worried about your child, and I would have been there. But instead, the school psychologist wants to spend 3 hours trying to bully and coerce my child into signing a contract stating he would not defend himself against the boy that threatened his life.
That's the way they are in the public school. And that's, by the way, I do qualify that. I'm certified, but I'm certainly not employed. But that is how and that's one reason why they're not employed. I did blow the whistle myself, and they didn't like that, and so.
Once again, my son spent until the next morning in the crisis unit because they only have one physician, one psychiatrist that comes in. So if you're Baker Acted at any point in time past 10 a.m., you're there until the next day, no matter what. And the laws for Baker Act on children have actually recently changed, and a child is supposed to be examined within 12 hours. So my son was actually in the hospital 11 hours too long. And then on top of that, I refused to sign him in until he was actually being discharged is when I signed his admission, and the admissions were all signed under duress. Because I refused to sign him in, they had to keep him there. They kept him on a mattress basically in the hallway. They had wanted me to sign him in so they could send him to another county because the police had already brought in 3 or 4 children that day, and there was no room at the inn.
Hillary, I'm just sitting here shaking my head.
And honestly, I actually got a chance to talk to another parent, his middle school, basically 11, 12-year-old daughter, about a month before my son was Baker Acted. She was Baker Acted from the Punta Gorda Middle School for making a flippant comment. And even the school resource officer told the father that he didn't really believe that she was a danger to herself or anyone else. But the counselor insisted that she be sent down. The school did not call. The police did not call. This father found out that his child was in the crisis unit when they called requesting a credit card for a $3,000 deposit because they didn't take his insurance. This man, a lawyer, and about $6,000 to get his daughter back.
Well, that's kind of what they like to see, is a lot of controversy and a lot of hiring of their bar members and that kind of stuff. This is David again. I don't know what more to say as far as from a professional standpoint dealing with the public schools, other than that rather than use the term Baker Acted, you may want to consider assaulted under color of law. Because crimes being committed under color of law, under color of the Baker Act, so to speak. So, paint the picture not in their terms and their wording, but paint it in your own, realistic
medical kidnapping. Medical
yes.
kidnapping.
That kind of stuff. Yes.
That's a great point, David.
And of course, I was told. I was actually told by the police that we were lucky my son wasn't charged with assaulting an officer while he was fighting for his freedom.
Yeah. Don't you feel lucky?
Absolutely.
Good Lord.
Yeah, the officer determined that my son's mental illness needed to be treated more. And this is something that he took a special class for, by the way. I have that on video, too. He's the one that does all the Baker Acts because he took a class.
Well, I would say it definitely sounds like your son does need some help, and you're a principal in that picture, and I pray for his welfare and yours as well.
I do appreciate that, and my son is actually in counseling now. He was not in counseling before this incident, but he's in it now.
Huh. Well, that's great. That's great. He's getting counseling. That's one of the most overlooked things is when children go through a trauma like this, nobody's around to pick up the pieces, and nobody seems to care that there are pieces to pick up, and that really pisses me off. These children are exposed to this craziness and then expected to what? Just absorb it? Go on with life like everything's normal?
Pretty much. That's what they expect. And I just wonder what these school resource officers, do they sit back and think about what they're actually doing to these little children? If they want to know why they're losing the hearts and the minds of the people, if they want to know why they're losing respect, they did this to my son the first time as a 10-year-old, and now at 16, he despises the police. My child would call a cop to pick up a body, probably.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Yeah. I do. And the police are bringing this upon themselves, and they don't seem to understand or care. You're right. In the hearts and the minds of the people of this country, our police are doing more disservice than service. And that's a hard one, and it's not going to be one that they can easily fix. And that's part of why it's so important that we work together to create this unity so that we can start, redirecting all of this anger, fear, and hatred of the people into something that's going to work in a positive way. I've heard that story, similar stories, from people all over the country, Hillary, and I'd like to applaud you first for recognizing that there is a problem, recognizing that it goes beyond your own personal experience, and that the people in this country are dealing with this in all of the 50 states to one degree or another. And I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the call and being with us and participate. So often I see parents, after they get their own particular situation resolved to whatever degree, they just simply walk away, and you haven't done that, and I applaud you for that, because the problem is bigger. It is bigger than our own individual crisis, and if we don't stick with it, if we don't keep pointing out these problems, they're not only going to keep going, but they're going to get worse. Right.
I can tell you how big the problem is in the state of Florida. I don't know about the rest of the country, but in the state of Florida, in the fiscal year 2015-2016, there were 32,475 children medically kidnapped, involuntary examination, Baker Act.
How many?
There are 32,475.
That sounds like an exact statistic. And that was for calendar year 2015, 2016?
Fiscal year 2015, 2016.
So 12 months.
Yes. If you divide that by the 67 counties that we have in the state of Florida, you get about 180 a day. I'm sorry. You get you got to skew the numbers a little bit because these involuntary exams most often happen at school. The school year is a 180-day period out of the calendar year or out of the fiscal year. If you take the 32,475 children, divide that by the 67 counties and the 180-day school year, you get 3 children per county per day. Now, out of those children, about 70% do not make criteria. So that would be about 22,000 children.
That's utterly appalling.
Well, all I can say is that it would only take one child if it was mine. That would be enough. So I empathize with where you're coming from, ma'am.
Thank you. Well, that's why I'm screaming from the rooftops for every outlet that will listen. This is an absolute travesty of human rights. You know, my child's rights were violated. My rights as a parent were violated. This is the state of Florida telling me that I can't handle my own child during an emotional outburst. It's just ridiculous.
And this is all still sinking into me. I didn't even realize this was a thing. Taking children out of school without even the parents' knowledge. Oh wow,
That's
yeah,
correct.
David, if this happened to me, stand by, man. Stand by. Whoa. Well, does Florida have school of choice? Obviously, you elected to homeschool for, you said 2 years or 3 years?
About 3 years.
2011 to 2013, if I remember right. I'm trying to take notes here too. And after returning to public school, your son maintained a 4.0 grade point average.
Until he got to high school, correct.
Until he got to high school.
Yeah, then about 15, 16, girls and friends become a little more important than school books.
Sure.
So he became more of a B student, but, he's still a good kid, still a very smart kid. Prior to him being Baker acted on May 16th of this year, his biggest crime was skipping 5th period.
Well, that's worth a couple of years in some psych ward, right? I mean, that must
Absolutely.
be how they feel about it in Florida. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. My senior year in high school, I was just talking about this with some friends today. I only attended my senior year of high school. I think there's 184 days in a school year, and I attended 43 of them. And graduated, I think it was like a 3.0 or 3-point-something grade point average. Things are a lot different today than they were, obviously, when I went to high school. And in high school, I had a full-time job, and school wasn't really that important to me. It was just kind of boring. But it's so interesting to me to see all the differences now between how things were and how they are today. It's just crazy. I mean, the programming is getting more intensive, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Anything like the Baker Act would have happened when I was in high school. there would have been a lot of trouble for the teaching staff and the principal, and it wouldn't have been allowed to happen. I know that for a fact.
Right. Well, I know, like I've said numerous times, if this had happened back in 1991 when I attended the exact same school, I would have gone and beaten up the girl that made the threat. We both would have done our 10 days and come back as friends. That's just how things went back then. But now they want to nanny state you. They want to control every move, every thought, every emotion you have from cradle to grave.
Wow. Mike, things are bad down there in Florida, huh? Those statistics are crazy. Those numbers, I ran the numbers while you were talking about them, and they work out to what you said. And I was even using the 12-month period to break it down even further. There's not 12 months worth of school, but it was ridiculous even if there had been.
Right.
Unacceptable.
And we do actually have some year-round schools here in Charlotte County where I live. So they're, and they're elementary schools. And what I find really troubling here is that the state of Florida says compulsory education is from age 6 to 16. But they are pushing these little babies, 4 and 5-year-olds, into VPK and kindergarten sooner and sooner and sooner and sooner. And the Baker Act applies to children as young as 6.
Wow. That's outrageous. Florida for a long time has been known as one of the worst states for children protection services. Were you aware of that, Hillary?
Oh yeah. I've had my encounters with them. I actually had Child Protective Services called on me when my oldest son was about 10 because I made him do push-ups as punishment.
Interesting. Are you aware of any?
The investigator laughed.
Yeah. Are you aware, Hillary, of any statewide Florida organizations, advocates for parent-child rights in the state of Florida? Do you know of any?
Well, I know the Citizens Commission for Human Rights is a Baker Act advocacy, real big for and they do a great referral service to lawyers, to doctors, to other kinds of help and services. When I first contacted them, I'll be honest, they're affiliated with the Church of Scientology. They don't believe in psychiatry at all, and I'm not going to say that I agree with everything they believe. But the advocacy that they do, the pushing for the change in the laws that they do, I'm behind 100%.
Right. Well, I think what would be good, Ted and David and Hillary, is that we find in the state of Florida, it would be good to get connected with any of these groups that are advocates for child and parental rights. I'm sure there are, such groups. And what we're trying to do with this Project Unity is foster strength through unity. And, this is certainly a very unifying, activity that's taking place in the state of Florida and other states as well. When you have children and their parents' rights being violated by the state and abused physically, that is cause for action and extreme action within the law. And I think it would be a great, a great area of interest if we could find the groups in Florida that, are defenders of child and parental rights?
I would love to find them. I found the Citizens Commission on Human Rights through another friend, and aside from them, there really hasn't been a whole lot of anybody. I got the Southern Legal Center to represent us for a possible lawsuit, mostly just to get the laws changed. Like, I'm not looking to make $1 billion. It would be nice to be able to send my kid to Harvard if he wanted to go. You know, I think he deserves the best education possible, but that's really not what it's about. It's about interfering with my rights as a parent to take care of my own child. And the ability for the schools, for the police to step in and say there's something wrong with this kid without ever picking up a phone and notifying the parent, that's just unacceptable.
Right. Very
unacceptable. There's really, you know, like I found back in 2011, there was nobody. Like there's nothing. There's no information. There's no one around. I had to stage a small protest across the street from the high school in order to hear from this other father of the middle school child I was talking about earlier, because there's no one around for anyone. Like, you just don't know where to go.
Well, I think
it's real easy to find a lawyer if your child is severely handicapped, if they're autistic, if they have Down syndrome. There are plenty of lawyers that'll stand up and defend those children. But, like, for the first 500 phone calls of lawyers that I tried to find to help us, what I got repeatedly was, it's too bad he wasn't beat up more. It's too bad they didn't break his nose. It's too bad all there were bumps and bruises. Then we would have really had something. There is no accountability.
They're the ambulance chasers. Man, if you don't mind, this is probably the best I could do. This is David. There's a man by the name, and you may know him, Mike, Roger Dowdell. He's working with a lot of people down there.
Yes, I know who he is, yes.
Do you have his number?
I have an email for him, and I could get his number.
I've got his number. If you feel like leaving him a message, I just know he's got a lot of contacts down there in Florida, and a lot of people are in all over the state actually, and they're doing some things in different counties, and they may not only have people that are connected with some of those resources, but they may have some ideas as well.
Yeah, Roger's active in the common law court grand jury action, and there's really no teeth in that area of action. It's very impotent, actually. We just don't have any way to without hiring a lawyer or representing ourselves pro se, we really just don't have any voice in the court system. Unless you got a bunch of money to buy volume, then you can have a voice. But the common law grand jury, the people's grand jury, is impotent. It has no enforcement power whatsoever. It's a good educational tool to educate people on the way the grand jury should operate, but it's their court, it's their theater, and you got to play by their rules. And if you don't, they get mad and they throw you out of their court and sometimes put you in jail. And I think we're far more valuable free outside jails than we are inside jails. So
that wasn't exactly what I had in mind. I didn't mention he has the grand jury or anything like that. I said that he knew a lot of people, and it sounded to me like the woman there on the line is looking for people that know people that know people that may be somewhere along the line of that chain, that one of those people that knows somebody else might know somebody that can actually help, and, you know, if the word gets out. So I wasn't trying to set you or her or anybody up with a grand jury or anything like that. I was, and you know, people do often separate. I just know I've dealt with Roger and listened to him, and I get his weekly calls and things like this, and I listen to about half of them, and I do understand that he's involved in a lot of different things, even outside the state, in trying to help others to do a lot of different things that are not like Hagen Smith is in a Marion County, I believe, and they are active in with their local commissioners, and Hagen Smith is also doing stuff with dealing with helping to write new laws, and you know, none of that has anything to do with grand juries. So and it'll be the last time that I just mention it, is that I think that there is an asset down there in Florida, and his name is Roger Dowdell, and I've got his phone number. You may use his email address. You may just want to, you know, not. But I just thought I'd make it available, and I yield.
No, I would say I appreciate it. As I said, I'm willing to talk to anybody that's willing to listen. I did actually try to contact my local state senator, as well as some other officials, and like the State Department of Education says that school oversight is done at the local level. So they referred me right back to the people that I have a problem with. I tried to contact the FDLE to let them know that I think there needs to be more training. There needs to be some de-escalation training, that I actually have no confidence in the Punta Gorda Police Department, because this is the same police department that is responsible for a dog maul and the death of a 74-year-old librarian in a shoot-don't shoot. This is a very corrupt police department, and I got no response. No one wants to hold anyone accountable for what happened to my child, for his rights being violated, for my rights as a parent being violated. No one will be held responsible so far.
Well, therein, Ted, you'll agree with me on that. That's the pattern in practice all over the place. No government, so-called government official wants to hold any other one accountable. And this is despite that we're supposed to have checks and balances in not two, but three different branches of government, each one to hold the other to task, so that the people's rights are guaranteed. I mean, it's completely upside down. This is the system that we have, and it's not operating, or in other words, it's operating on behalf of the corporation, or some people refer to it like me as the domestic terrorists, the racketeers, the crime syndicate, the mafia, however we want to describe those people that are taking our money and calling themselves our government. They govern us. I'm sorry. I get a little emotional sometimes.
I know. I haven't had a good encounter with a government official, especially with a police officer, in at least a decade. They act more like brown shirts in a hurry to show off their brand new jackboots.
Ted, did you have any thoughts? Are you there? Maybe Ted stepped away for a moment. Well, I came on the call a little bit late, so I wasn't really sure how that started. Were you a caller that called in, or are you somebody that's affiliated with Mike down there, or I missed that?
Who are you speaking to?
Well, I was speaking to you, and I didn't even catch your name. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. My name is Hillary, and I was actually invited on the show as a guest. We're discussing the unethical, illegal Baker Act of my 16-year-old child. And actually, it's a practice across Florida.
Got it, under the Baker Act. I just got a text from Ted. It looked like he got kicked off somehow off the call. So I'm sure our host is trying to get back to the call here. At least we are still connected. So, well, I think that our public schools are in serious trouble anyway. They are. I found that they're supposed to be reporting back to Congress how they're implementing IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, and in fact, they are, in return for their accepting money at the state level from the feds, and these reports that are going back I'm believing that they are not true. That they do not include the kind of details that you're talking about. They certainly aren't, portrayed from the perspective of the parent or the child, which is what the funds are supposed to be used for, and it amounts to fraud on Congress by these people at state level that are taking the money from the feds. And
they're manufacturing crises that don't exist with these kids, and they're using that to gain more control. The school psychologist actually had the gall to talk medication with my child without me being present. And I do not believe in medicating a still developing brain if there is no real reason to. And if all my child has is anxiety, then we're not going to be putting him on Seroquel.
Uh-huh. Well, and the school got, they think that if they can talk about sex with our kids and without, our permission, or letting us know that this is what they will be doing, then they probably feel that they can talk about anything with their kids. I'm with you there.
And all I can say is just one drug, for example, that treats oppositional defiant disorder and ADD. We're talking about a $10 billion a year industry. So it's not just, the schools getting money from the feds. It's, the pharmaceutical company pushing these dangerous medications onto children. It's the crisis unit. They charge $1,000 a day for the involuntary, unwanted exam of your child.
Yeah.
Just follow the money, and you'll figure out why the law was twisted to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a pattern of practice. I believe it's a bilking of our system. It's bilking the money out of the people. It's building bigger government, and that's that's their purpose. That's what they thrive on, and that's how they grow, and that's what's taking this country down as well. Again, I'm sorry to hear this, that it's hitting so close to home for you.
Oh, I am too, but now that it happened to me and my family twice, I'm not going to go away, and I'm not going to be quiet, because if they think that they're going to do this twice to my child, how many others have they done this to? Well, I already told you, more than 32,000 of them in one physical year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so it looks to me like you're going to be a local leader.
I'm going to try.
Well, is Ted back with us yet here? Ted, are you there? Amazing. Well, I'm going to... Mike, I'm going to be sending a quick text to see if Ted's getting back on here. Hold on just a moment here.
Okay.
Let's see. Hopefully he can get on. I don't know. I'm supposed to be seeing him. I saw him last weekend, I think it was, or last Friday. And I'm planning on going back out there again this weekend, just for a day trip over there to see him.
How far do you live from Ted?
It's about an hour and 40 minutes or so. So it's a good amount of driving one way. But he's having a luncheon on Sunday at his house, and he asked me to invite a few people, and we're gonna try to put our heads together and see what we can come up with as far as some solutions to some of this stuff that's going on, at least statewide here in Michigan. And so we're it's really, I mean, everybody in all these states, we do need to come together, and I think that, in Roger Dowdell's favor, and all the people that are affiliated with, he's got a pretty big network down there, and I do think that they're trying to get a multi-pronged approach to this. They're dealing with Terry Tressel, and they know that if somebody who was placed into the position of the grand jury foreman by one of their own grand juries, then if they can do that to somebody like him, then they can do whatever they want, pretty much, and that's not the way it should be. Let me see. He said he's still trying to get back in, so I don't know what his problem is. So, we are, and there's I just got off a call from 7 to 9. Right now it's almost 10. I just got off a call where Charles Stewart, again, there in Oregon, was talking about, these precincts and, setting up legitimately how, in common law that these precincts are set up. And what I think we're finding is that this government is not operated. It is de facto. You can call it de facto government, but when at what point are they crossing the line between being de facto and just outright being criminal? And I think that we can define those lines at some point. We already know that, and it's getting to be more common knowledge that there is a difference between the de jure type of government that's legitimate and one that is in its place, that's just taken the place because there is no du jour. And there was I don't want to sound like I'm rambling, but I just saw a video by the name of Ainsworth. The last name was Ainsworth. It was a 2-part DVD video made in North Carolina, where he has gone back to the Reconstruction Acts, which included Florida, the Reconstruction Acts after the Civil War, and how the Union states had basically put people into the government at the point of a bayonet. And this is post Civil War. After the Civil War, the elected government, which you might call the de jure government of those southern states, had elected their governments and had ratified the 13th Amendment. And when that same government turned down the 14th Amendment, the Congress said, well, we basically we don't like that. We're sending our troops down there, and we're going to put in a rump government that we want, and you guys will not be. You're going to be considered territories and rebellious states until you ratify that 14th Amendment. Once you agree to ratify that 14th Amendment, we'll let you in the Union again. And that's basically the way they played that whole thing out. And ever since then, this nation has been taken over. It's not been damaged. It's been taken over, overrun by a de facto national government. And it's not a de jure government, especially down there in those southern states. They've basically taken that whole thing and done it over the whole United States. And so people are of the view that there is de jure seats of legitimate government that are sitting there vacant. And it is possible to have something vacant and for somebody to be in there, because I know Michigan statutes say that if somebody's elected to a position, the judge, and they don't submit an oath of office and a bond, then that office is vacant, even though somebody's sitting in there. The statutes say that here in Michigan. So again, I don't want to sound like I'm rambling, but there is a distinction between de jure, a true government, and which is we don't see nowadays, and the de facto, which is in its place, and then there is a line that's drawn between what is de facto, what's kind of almost correct, and what is outright treasonous and criminal and domestic terrorism by definition. And I'm of the position that we've got example upon example. And the lady on the phone here, I'm sorry, I'm so bad at names late at night here. Holly, did you say Holly or
Hillary?
Hillary.
It's Hillary. Yeah. No relation to the other one.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Laugh, but, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ted.
I'm back.
I'm losing motivation.
Thanks for making that clear, Hillary. No relation to the other one.
Well, this is great, Hillary. How many times I had to point that out?
Yeah. I'm like, oh no, there's going to be a Hillary on the show. Oh. Well, Hillary, I'm really impressed with the fact that you've been fighting this fight, and you've been exposed now to the things that we're talking about here. And one of the things I'm really excited about is that you want to continue participating. You want to actually become part of the solution and stop being part of the problem like the rest of society's being. And that's excellent. And if I were to ask you if you'd be willing to put in some time to help us find groups in Florida or even across the United States that were interested in creating unity for the sake of unity so that our voice can become stronger, would you be interested in doing that? Obviously, you've got a lot of work ahead of you with what you've got going on, but you've also pointed out that you've recognized that these are systemic problems and that you have an interest in pursuing them and actually working to get some things done. So how would you answer that question?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. It's we the people, the silent majority, need to actually start stepping up and doing something before
it's too late.
What is supposed to be our great republic is gone.
Absolutely. Well, we're not looking necessarily at attracting the silent masses right now. We're just trying to coordinate currently with groups that are already active, people that are already recognizing, like yourself, that there's problems and that we need to start working together. What we're trying to do is establish a unity type coordinator for a bunch of different groups so that we can start coalescing together and working together to tackle some of these really huge issues. And I think with your level of motivation, your level of interest, and your exposure to what's going on would make you a great candidate to help with the Unity Project.
I would love to help however I can.
Okay, it's not real hard. What we're doing here is putting together a plan that's obviously never been done before. Otherwise, we'd all be united already.
Right.
It sounds really simple. Hey, let's all get together, but it's not happened yet, and that's the primary issue that we're trying to tackle with this radio program over the course of this summer. Is why is this so difficult, and why isn't it being done? So we're not only looking for solutions to these pitfalls, but also solutions to overcome them. And if you're interested in helping, one of the things that we need to do first is start compiling names of these different groups that are doing different things, advocating for children, advocating for parents' rights. The list goes on and on. It's actually very extensive. And becoming a Unity coordinator, helping with the Unity Project, and first helping us outline the different groups that are out there working actively so that we can reach out and touch base with them and ask them if they have somebody or could assign somebody to spend a couple hours a week working on nothing but Unity. That's our goal, and that's what we'd like your help with if you're interested.
Absolutely. I have some good contacts now with, like Citizens Commission for Human Rights. I would be happy to speak with them, share, all the information I have, and see what we can do.
Hillary, where are they located at?
The Citizens Commission for Human Rights, I believe they're in Clearwater.
Okay. Do you know if they're mainly a Florida organization or are they a national?
I believe they're mainly Florida.
Okay. Well, that would be a good start. And, if you really want to help, the best thing you could do, since this is your expertise, is to try to do the research and find other groups in the state of Florida that are focusing exclusively on children and parental rights, in connection with the government. So that would be a great start.
Right. Well, I'll be happy to start making some phone calls.
All right.
That's
fantastic.
Great. Hillary, I'd like for you to get our email addresses. So what I'll do is I'll give you mine, and I will send you a list of all of our email addresses and contact information so that we can touch base as frequently as we can, keeping in mind everybody's other life schedules as well. So if you got a pen there, It's MI.
Actually, I'm penless right this moment.
Okay. Well, you could tell me your email address if you'd like, and I'll send you that information.
Okay. It's real simple. It's just my name backwards. It's CASKEYHILARY@yahoo.com.
Got it.
And anybody that wants to email me, tell me horror stories of the Baker Act, point me in a good direction, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, I'll be sending you an email shortly. And in the meantime, I'd like to thank you for wanting to help and be part of the solution. That's awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Well, Mike,
any
we've got
attention we can get is good.
Yes, it is. It's all good. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Hillary.
Oh, you're fine. I'm sorry. I thought I interrupted you. I was just trying to say that, anybody that's willing to listen, anybody that's willing to help, of course I'm willing to talk to. So, thank you for being willing to listen. Thank you for being an outlet. Thank you for drawing attention to all of this.
That's what needs to be done. And the more groups that are working on all these different things, the better.
I couldn't agree more.
I'm having trouble with my connection tonight, guys. I got to apologize. I'm not sure what's going on. Hello?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, Mike. We have another volunteer, and again, we need to work together to put together, a written strategy that's easy to follow and doable for the volunteers we get that are willing to put in the time and effort to help us round up group names and contacts for people within those groups who would be interested in spending an hour or two per week working strictly on unifying.
That's right. And, it's people like Hillary that have a specific targeted expertise and knowledge of a particular problem in government. And it's people like her that, become very powerful when organized properly and assimilated into a strategy. This is what we're lacking. We're lacking a national strategy, coordination. And this, Hillary, this is what we're seeking to assemble, is a structure in a unified manner, narrowly focused on a remedy and making noise to achieve the remedy. And it's people like you in your particular category of expertise getting mobilized and being part of a team of people that have a whole variety of different issues and areas of expertise. And this method is very possible now with the internet and the power of the internet. And there's the idea and concept of crowdfunding. That's very popular these days, where you get a large number of people to come together on the internet to fund a certain project. Well, what we're seeking to do is to crowdsource our efforts and energies and focusing on the effort of unity, getting us all united on the same page to fight the tyranny. The last time this was achieved was in 1776, and they were quite successful without the internet. But they had certain strategies in place back then, committees that were organized county by county. Paul Revere, for example, was a member of a committee called the Committee of Correspondence. It was their duty to relay messages from one county to another regarding imminent danger and threat. And so we seek to organize a similar body of citizens, county by county, state by state, issue by issue, but we all want to be acting in unison, in concert together, to crowdsource our energy and our effort. And that's what this effort is all about, organizing all the different people and the different issues and ideas and threats into a national machine, if you will, structure, organized structure. And until we can do this, our voices will be very small and meager and impotent, unfortunately. So I hope that helps out in understanding what we're trying to do. I yield.
That was an excellent explanation again, Mike. I appreciate it, and I'm sure Hillary got a lot from that too.
I did. I do understand, and I think that's an awesome thing, and it needs to happen. I know just with my own particular problem, I have been the lone voice in the wilderness so far. It's going to be great to have someone else to not only help me, but to help us all, so that we can maybe stop the tyrannical nanny state before there's nothing left.
Well, one of the things I'm sure you've noticed, Hillary, is that the more you try and communicate with these people who are doing these wicked things, the less you hear back from them. It's not funny, but I kind of, got a chuckle because I've been there. I think we've all been there. Whenever our argument is solid, we don't hear anything back, ever. And it's very important also to recognize, Hillary, that you are part of the private-public proxy. Okay, you're not just speaking on your own behalf and on your son's own behalf. You're actually speaking for the people of this country as the private-public proxy. What that means is you are bringing the voice of the people to them, and they have nothing to say. They can't rebut your argument. They can't counter it. They can't say you're full of hot air. And the longer you've been doing this, the more clear that becomes when there's, your argument's pretty much bulletproof when they don't even say, So don't lose faith. We're definitely making an impact. In fact, that's part of the reason why we don't hear anything back. Is they're acting like they're almost in full retreat, and the things that they're going to be doing, the things they're doing right now, are so out of control. It's beyond the comprehension of most folks. So it's very important now more than ever that we're there doing what we're doing. David, do you want to jump in there on the private-public proxy?
Well, I was more thinking about, because I'm working with kids each day in the gymnastics environment, and I'm more thinking about the boy and thinking, well, I don't know what the guys that are in high school, they do need male mentors and leadership, and whether it's found in the church or whether it's with male leaders in the men's ministry or with any local types of organizations that are promoting private membership to these government agencies set up to help us when we try to help ourselves. There's a lot of groups out there that have male leaders that I think that the kids are in high school, if there's other males, because right now he may be getting the only influence may be coming from his own peer group, and I think that kids in high school do need to have older mentors. So that's where my focus was. But with regard to private public proxies, I see it more as akin to the private attorney general, Private attorney general is in litigation, a private person who acts in the capacity of an attorney, and in managing class action type cases, and if you carry that premise over, in private, you're acting on behalf of other people as the proxy for the public, and of course, if you're advocating against something, I won't call them the enemy, although they see us as the enemy, and treat us as we are enemies. We are advocating that they correct their behaviors, and we're doing it on behalf of the public. So that's pretty much where Ted and I have been talking about that terminology, private public proxy. That we are acting in the private, and we are a proxy, basically a spokesperson for the public. I yield.
And serving public interests.
Correct.
Well, David, I want to close the show tonight talking about what we went over here in person, if that's all right with you. It looks like we lost Mike. Mike, are you still there? Yeah, we lost Mike. And I wanted to close up the show tonight talking about what we talked about in your recent visit, if that sounds good to you. If not, we'll close the show a little bit early tonight and get back to work.
That's a good idea, because we are planning to have. I was telling while you were trying to get back on, I was telling Mike and Hillary that we are planning a luncheon at your house, and that we are trying to troubleshoot and figure out how we're going to be dealing with this situation of this these usurpations, I'd say, of our rights, and because we don't have checks and balances, and we need to start being able to take our country back.
Well, that's exactly right, and I'm really excited to be hosting this luncheon Sunday, and it's going to be excellent. Danny's excited about it, and we're working to get all the food prepared so that we can just serve lunch and get right down to business. We got hamburgers on the grill planned, and it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. One of the things that we're going to be discussing is the runaway courts, of course, and you don't really understand what's going on with the courts unless, like David and I, we've been studying this stuff now for years. David, much longer than me even, and it's just amazing. David came over and shared his story about an automobile accident that he was involved in, and nothing in the police report looked like what happened. The damage on the vehicles, proven with pictures, show a totally different story than that portrayed by the police officer. And the judge didn't seem to care about any of the facts or the evidence in the case, only in ruling against David and finding him guilty of failure to yield and being struck in the rear. You can't fail to yield to somebody rear-ending you. It's not even possible.
Right. And there's a stop sign when there's no stop sign, and I mean the claim it's an all-encompassing. I've never heard of anybody with a straight face claim that something it can be considered an all-encompassing ticket. But it wasn't a judge; it was a magistrate. And had I not been this magistrate represented to me that no matter what happened during the course of this thing, that it was not formal, that I had every right to an appeal, but what was never told to me was that he was placing me in commerce, and that not only would I not be entitled to an appeal unless I paid money, but that that he was going to basically railroad me throughout the entire proceeding, and along with this police officer. So,
well, the crux here, the simplified version of everything just said, is that there was this was a simulated legal process, which is a crime. Now the de facto, we've just discussed this earlier, is unlawfully usurped these positions in office to do exactly that. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're there to simulate the legal process. In Michigan, that's a crime. I think it's a crime in most states. But these judges are simulating a legal process. They don't have an oath and bond. Number one, they're illegitimate, whether it's a judge or magistrate. And in a case like David's, all of these things are made crystal clear. And forgetting about the judge versus magistrate argument, forgetting about this, that, and the other thing. The truth of the matter is, the police officer perjured himself in Michigan. That would be a 15-year felony to obtain a conviction of David Scheid, because David Scheid is David Scheid, and that's pretty much it. Operating under color of law, under color of government, violating the criminal statute for simulating a legal process to find you guilty of something you didn't do. I mean, that's the crux of it. It doesn't matter. The all-encompassing ticket, I think, is just a distraction. It takes us away from where we need to be, which is the fact that these people are masquerading as our public officials. They're not operating under oath and bond, and they're pretty much doing today whatever the hell they want to, and that's what's got to stop.
Well, and it's not just real. Although tickets are pretty commonplace, and it's commonplace not just here in Michigan but all over, and they call all of this a privilege to drive and to be subjected to all of this stuff. It's our privilege to be treated this way, and I think it's something we have enough evidence to show that we can draw the line to say, hell no, it ain't no privilege, and in fact, you're privileged to be working for us. And if you take our money the way you've been taking our money, and if you don't come through and act on our behalf the way you're supposed to, then you are guilty of treason, period. And domestic terrorism if you're involved with the other people in a what I'm calling, and I can prove in this particular court situation, a financial crimes organization. They are. Which carries a $10 million fine per person and a $20 million fine per organization, and that's per their own U.S. codes. So this is some serious stuff that I'm accusing them of, and I've already made these accusations public to the Michigan Attorney General, to the Michigan Secretary of State, to the U.S. Attorney for the Southeast Michigan, to the U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, to my local state administrator, and to the corporations, the insurance commissioner for Michigan, because
and David, you got the same answer back from every one of them, right?
Which was no answer at all.
No answer at all. No answer at all. Yeah. They're operating in default and dishonor.
Right. This is a complete serious crime that I'm and what they're doing, the Secretary of State, instead of doing anything about my serious crime, she is supporting them, threatening me to suspend my license if I don't pay their extortion amount of $125 on having been found railroaded into responsibility. You know, this is all stuff I can prove. I've got the evidence. And you know, you'd have to see my Rico Busters video if there's anybody listening to this. The Rico Busters on YouTube is number 21, and it gives the full story, and it shows the level of cover up, because you try to find any information out about the magistrate and his qualifications through FOIA request, and all you get is stonewalled. You know, and this is the FOIA. They don't want to answer criminal complaints. They don't want to provide you with paperwork under FOIA, transparency laws. Nothing. This is not a government.
Taxation without representation.
Yep. Yep.
Again, here we are again. Well, everybody says our founding fathers would be shooting by now, and I can't really argue with that. You know, we've seen all of this crime and corruption to such extent. It's amazing to me that so many people are still in the fog about what's going on, what's really going on. And just to I have a case very similar to David's. David got this ticket citation. You know, it wasn't much, $124 or something, but it was for something he didn't do. And the court wouldn't hear the evidence. The court wouldn't see the evidence. The court massaged the situation to make it sound like they were going to hold an informal hearing where supposedly evidence would have been submitted and some sort of decision made, most likely to dismiss the charges against the citation against you. And that's not what happened at all. See, the guy who was really responsible for this accident held a chauffeur's license, and that fact was disguised by omission by the police officer who committed felony perjury by not listing this guy's actual driving status as a chauffeur. So in addition to just nailing David Scheid to the wall for something he didn't do, this was an opportunity to give this other character a pass for actually being responsible for the accident, so he wouldn't lose his job or something. And we see these special favors happening all the time. Who knows who this kid really is, who he's connected with? Obviously, it goes a lot farther than just having a professional chauffeur's license. And that, this kid probably has a father that was owed some favor by the specific magistrate in that case. And that's exactly what happened. David got railroaded for something he didn't do. This other kid gets off scot-free. His chauffeur's license wasn't even written on the citation. And here we are today. In my case... It becomes insurance fraud too, in a very expanded way. When this fraudulent incident report written by the police officer, even having a completely different car that was written down in his report than what was actually the one that hit me, and a completely different license number and everything. And that goes along with, saying I was broadsided when he hit me from behind instead, and I got pictures of my car showing totally different. This goes to the police, to the insurance company, along with 2 points awarded by the so-called court magistrate. Not only do my premiums go up, but so statistically, this starts gets included into reports that go to the state, and then that's reported to nationally. This kind of stuff. This may seem like just one incident, but it has repercussions down the line that ends up costing all of us. And that was one of the points made in my video, Rico Busters. Episode number 21, David. Some of your best work yet, for sure. Excellent video. If our listeners haven't seen it, look up Rico Busters on YouTube and look up episode 21. Excellent episode. David, after you left the house here the other day, I thought of something that I wanted to tell you, and I completely forgot until just now. Yeah. One of the reasons why the vehicle that struck you was not listed in the report is for the same exact reason, most likely, that the driver that hit you, and I'll say driver because he has a chauffeur's license, the driver that hit you is probably the registered owner of the car that struck you. And on the police report, the guy's wife's car is the one that was wrote up in the report.
Right.
So not only does this chauffeur not show a chauffeur's license on the accident report, but it doesn't even show the vehicle that he was actually driving that was most likely registered to him, but rather a vehicle probably registered to his wife for the same reasons, to hide the fact that he was even ever in this accident.
Well, that's well, except for the fact that his name was on the incident report, but his the status of his driver, instead, even though there were two buttons to fill in, one being operator's license, the other being chauffeur's license, this so-called police officer filled in the button that said operator's license, when I had a photograph that I took on the scene of the guy's driver's license. I took a photo with my phone.
And that's in the video too. That's one of the reasons you got to see it. I don't know who this guy is to get all of these solid special favors from this police officer. Maybe his dad's on the force or something. We don't know yet, but we'll find out.
Well, I've been hearing some reports about so-called targeted individuals. I sometimes wonder at what point, Ted, that as much as we try to do the right thing, that we start becoming something of a pest. And because I believe that, and people have told me too that they believe that when you're in the system and things are so easily found, that a police officer or anybody else can go into their, into the state system and see notes attached or anything else that, flashing, warning, or whatever, that tells gives messages as to what to do, how to deal with this person or whatever. And
that's entirely accurate, David. When the police are behind you and they run your plates because they think they have probable cause to do so, then all of a sudden they have access to this database that's maintained absent due process, where they get to say whatever the hell they want about you and I. And what that does is it gives, a possibility for some rookie officer looking to make a name for himself access to information that can be taken completely out of context.
Well, that happened to you too. As I recall, that happened to you.
Yeah, that's why I refused to register my vehicle, because I don't need some cocky rookie cop wanting to make a name for himself, getting behind me and running my plates for whatever, and then deciding, it's time for him to, to take me out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very scary. Very scary. So anyways, I wanted to speak to my case here. We got about 20 minutes left, and I'm not going to use it all, but I just wanted to let our listeners know what else is going on and how David Scheid and I both have a case that's very similar. Again, just to recap, David was brought to court on the citation and found guilty without a trial for having violated some what do you call it? Failure to yield. That's a traffic violation. And of course, the evidence that David has would prove to any reasonable-minded individual that wasn't actually a benefactor of the state crime and corruption that's going on, would believe and understand that there's no possible way that David should be held responsible for paying anything to anybody for the accident he was involved in, where he was struck from behind. Now, in my case, I was brought into court as a defendant facing misdemeanor charges, and I watched the county prosecutor, Risa Scully, assemble a jury that she felt confident in would find me unanimously guilty. And that's exactly what happened. Now, that's only part of the equation. I mean, that obviously is criminal, and that obviously, needs to be addressed as a criminal issue. But we're talking right now about the similarities between David's case and my case, and David's being threatened by the state of Michigan, Ruth Johnson specifically, in that if he doesn't pay, he'll lose his driving privileges, which is an animal all by itself. Okay, when the state takes away your driving privileges, they're placing a bullseye on your back, and at the same time letting every police officer know that you have a bullseye on your back, because your name is linked to your registration, et cetera, et cetera. So, even though we can exercise our right to travel, and we do, David has a bullseye on his back, and the same thing is going on here in my case. I'm in court for misdemeanors. I was never caught driving anything, and the witnesses in my trial didn't testify to anything. But this assembled jury, the county of Isabella County, tampered with the jury to find me unanimously guilty. And I witnessed these crimes against me, and I just will not pay criminals to criminalize me. I just won't. So I'm refusing to pay the court fines and fees amounting to roughly $1,200. And the state of Michigan did take my driver's license, putting a bullseye on my back, as a collection arm of the county that committed these crimes against me. See, the big picture problem here is that these county courts throughout Michigan, and I'm sure that there are so many similarities in all the other states with regard to what we're talking about here, that you can't collect for a criminal without being part of the criminal operation. That has to make sense. If Larry owes you money and Johnny comes over to your house with a gun and says, "Hey, you need to pay Larry," I mean, that's part of the crime. And the same exact thing is going on right now in the state of Michigan. From the state of Michigan, Isabella County is saying, well, I owe them $1,200 for court fines and fees for criminalizing me. And then the state of Michigan comes in with the gun and says, hey, pay him or I'm going to shoot you. And by shooting you, I mean taking your driver's license, putting this bullseye in your back, making you uninsurable, raising your points even further, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In addition,
let's give a name to that. Let's give a name to that. It's not just the state of Michigan. This is the Secretary of State, and her name is Ruth Johnson. And this is the same person who is allowing, and I will go so far as to let you know, Ted, back in 2011, I let Ruth Johnson know that this rogue judge in the 17th District Court of Redford Township by the name of Karen Khalil who I've still got people writing to me today, yesterday, and the day before about what she's doing to people in Redford Township now, because she's still in office. I wrote to the Secretary of State saying what this woman was doing from the bench to me, using fraudulent judgment orders and things like this, dealing with a speeding ticket that I was challenging, and I don't have time to go into all of that, but I notified the Secretary of State, and I provided her liaison with proof that these crimes were being committed from the bench, and all that Secretary of State would do was turn it over to the Attorney General, who Richard Cunningham, the attorney, a real ace in the hole for these criminals, did absolutely nothing and painted the whitewash over the whole thing and didn't do anything, and wrote back to Ruth Johnson. And I said, Ruth Johnson, as soon as she said that this guy was involved, I already knew who he was. And I said, why don't you get a grand jury involved? This needs to have a grand jury. This is a frickin' judge. And here's the proof, and you've got the proof. And she did absolutely nothing. And the following year, I was court watching, and this same person had her goons pluck me out of the public gallery when I was just sitting there with other people just auditing the government, and had me thrown in 6 counties away in a jail under a fraudulent judgment that I was criminal contempt of court. And I never even said a word. So this is the way Ruth Johnson responds when we try to, and she has not responded to my criminal complaint. And this is the name of the person, Ruth Johnson, Secretary of State for the state of Michigan, who is allowing this stuff to continue. And she knows very well what the hell's going on. I yield. I'm sorry.
Absolutely, David. She absolutely knows what's going on. And after this weekend, we're going to get some stuff formalized, and we're going to swing a big club. I can see it right now. We're going to swing a really big club, and that's what needs to be done. You know, it's pathetic. It's totally pathetic. What's going on? In addition to Ruth Johnson revoking my privilege to drive, knowing that I fully understand I have a right to travel that supersedes her privilege to drive. Since I'm not a driver, I don't get paid on the right of way. There's the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which makes it law that everybody that is being collected on or against has a right to dispute the debt. Now, the debt I'm disputing is a debt concocted by Isabella County for having simulated a legal process, which is a crime, to tamper with a jury, which is a crime, to find me guilty unlawfully and unfairly, which is also a crime. And I'm not going to pay Isabella County to do what they did to me. And Ruth Johnson is taking away privileges for my not being willing to pay criminals to criminalize me without offering me a way to dispute the debt in violation of the Federal Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. So the state of Michigan is not only enforcing this extortion and being a collection arm of the county courts, it's violating the Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and really rounding out this RICO scheme, this organized crime, this racketeering venture for profit to the state of Michigan. Well, even if we talked about a lot of things, David, but this one in particular is so well-rounded that it's really hard to not see what's going on.
Right.
You know,
and that's what I was going to say.
People don't even need to actually have been in your court or my court, your informal hearing or my criminal trial to understand what we're talking about here. And it's going to be.
Can you hear me?
It's going to be really. You know, things that are so apparent on their face are really appealing to me, because the only thing we're missing is capturing the court of public opinion. And the more simple that we can state our claims with regard to what's going on, the easier they are to understand, and the more people will understand and come together in the court of public opinion to start making a difference. You know, so many people before us, David, have experienced this and, you know, felt the overwhelming nature of the beast and just said, screw it, I'm going to pay it. You know, I don't have time to fight this. This is totally wrong. And they do. They pay it. They go on their way. Not really realizing that they're leaving this country to our children in worse shape than it was when we got here. Now, this kind of stuff didn't happen 30 years ago. And so why is it happening now? And why is it happening every single time now? You know, these are the results from inactivity over the last 30 years. People not paying attention, or people saying, well, it's just easier for me to pay $124 and be done with it. You know, because I still have to work. I still have to put food on my table. And if I got a big bullseye on my back, I'm not going to be able to do that. That creates another charge against the Secretary of State, Ruth Johnson. That's blackmail and extortion.
– Well, and what I was going to say was,
well, David, I'm super excited for this weekend. We got like 5 minutes left. I think we should probably close up. We got some good things talked about tonight, and I can't wait for this brunch this weekend. And you have any closing remarks before we sign off tonight?
Well, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
David, are you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm on.
All right, David, I think you hit the mute button or something.
No,
anyway,
I'm on.
That concludes tonight's show. It's August 25th, 2017. This has been the 22nd episode, I believe, of the Fourth Branch Radio Show, hosted by Ted Visner and David Scheid. Please join us again next week when we continue the conversation about unity and give updates as to this coming brunch this Sunday. Peace and God bless to everyone out there, and we'll see you next time.
Can't believe it.
What happened?
I'm not. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? I don't get it, because I was not on mute. And I was going, when you were talking, I kept trying to break in, and I was going, and you kept on talking, and I'm going, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And you kept on talking, and I'm going, well, I you know, he can't hear me. So,
well, the problem this time was entirely mine.
I was just going to bring up that you know, even elementary school kids get it. You know, parents are taught that a punishment is supposed to be appropriately applied to the offense. You don't say, you know, if a child takes away a toy or something like that from another kid, you punish them relative to that situation. You don't say, okay, from now on, you don't get any red shirts, you know, for the rest of your life, or, you know, I mean, you're not paying something on a court case that has nothing to do with driving, and the Secretary of State takes away your driving privileges. I mean, where's the fucking relationship? There is none, and this kind of thing does not. The punishment doesn't fit the so-called crime, and you know, and that's just from their viewpoint. From our viewpoint, as long as they are committing the crime, there is no punishment. I mean, this is insanity the way this whole thing is getting played out. And anyway, we're not on the air, but I just really wanted to say that they're taking away your driving privilege. I had absolutely nothing to do with what went on in the court. When you're talking about the Clearfield Doctrine, as I put it in that video, it said that when government acts in commerce, basically using money and all this stuff, then they are no different. They should be treated no differently than any other company, and that collection practices that should be most definitely applying as if they were any other corporation.
That's exactly right.
So
that's exactly right.
Anyway, I think we're going to have a good turnout. That's all I can say, and we're going to have a small caravan.
Excellent. Excellent.
So we'll be looking forward to it.
We're super hyped, David. We're so excited to host this and get to meet some of the folks that you've been working with for years, even that I haven't met yet, and it's going to be great. We got seating arranged. We've got food bought. We're good to go here, man. We're so excited.
All right. Well, it'll be. We're getting up Sunday morning early, and my aim is to get out there by 11:30 or 12, and I'm telling everybody else 12 to 12:30, and that we plan on hitting the pavement of conferencing and talking at 1 o'clock. And, taking it 4 or 5 hours will get us to 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. We're going to try and have everybody fed before 1 o'clock. So when 1 o'clock wraps up, we'll be ready to roll. Very exciting.
Good. Or we can have a working lunch. I mean, in eating work, whatever.
Yep.
I'm going to go to bed so I can get up early in the morning. It was good talking.
These 9 o'clock shows kind of kick our butt because you and I get up at 7 o'clock every morning and work our ass off. We just run out of gas by this time. All right.
All right,
David.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right, man. God bless.
Hey, Charlotte County. This is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I found that I had to make a change this ending on my videos, letting you know about the channel and fair use laws, you know, how we can report on other people's reporting and how it's good, how it's bad, etc. But you guys can look it up yourself. It is legal. It's in there. But like I've told you before, that I've been cut off from making money on YouTube for 4 years. It's really weird, bizarre, but they cut the money off, but they said you can keep the channel, and now YouTube makes all the money. And if you get bored, plug it into Social Blade website, and you'll see that they are making a huge amount off the site. Right now it's at 63 million views, 53,000 subscribers, almost 3 million views a month. You know, trying to wake people up, and I make nothing. In fact, I got a customer that's ex-congressman. He said if I could ever find a lawyer, sue YouTube on it. But because this is nuts. 4 hours a day, and to save America. You know, but at the same time, it's worth it. Look at what our founding fathers did. They died for this country. So, but getting back to the money part, this is why I'm redoing the video. Is my dream of everyone giving $1, and it's going to be $53,000 a year, or if they did Patreon, which you know, can be monthly. That is not working. That'd be great if it did. Nothing is perfect. And I appreciate the people that do donate, you know, what they can on PayPal. And there again, I'm letting you guys know that is not much. It is, you know, monthly is, oh my God. So anyways, yes, you cannot live on it. It's very, very, very low amount. But the dollar things, I do appreciate that. But when I first said everybody give $1, that's not working. I'm just letting you guys know it's, yeah, that dream. Everybody gives $1. 53,000 subscribers, it's not working. So, yes, if you can give more than that, you know, I appreciate it. Like I said, you know, I'm in a unique situation where, you know, we're already debt free, and I'm not rich, but with the little business that we have, I am able to do what I am able to do 45 hours a day, you know, letting you guys know what's going on. In 4 years, I've did the whole thing myself, 12,000 videos on there. I literally get emails where people are like, holy crap, I never knew it was this bad. And it is this bad, and it's getting worse every day because we have the internet, we have cell phones, we have cameras everywhere now, and it's just disgusting what's going on. And then, as you guys know too, we got Trump, we got Jeff Sessions doing a war on drugs, and now he wants to go after the forfeiture laws again. It's just unfreaking real. So if you can give more than that dream of everybody giving $1, yeah, that old video, that's not working. They're not. They're just not. So, anyways, if you can give more than that dream is not working. Hardly anybody is giving. There you go. So that's why I'm remaking the video. If you can give more than that would be great. And there again, like I said, the Patreon's there. There is some people on there that are starting to give, but there again, it's very, very low. And like I said, I don't want to get rich off of that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because, you know, it's still so stinking corrupt. It's not even funny. My court case that I'm going to be paying out of my pocket myself with Charlotte County's coming up. They illegally looked me up and then posted all my information on LEOAFFAIRS website. They basically doxed me, however you want to say that. I forget what the word is, and they outed me, man. And that information on that site went out to 500 sheriffs, deputies, people that work at the jail, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, it is very, very scary, but we're going to do a federal case, 1983 case, violating freedom of speech. We have 17 cameras in the house now. We got 2 cameras in the car. I always carry a camera plus a cell phone. A lot of people are highly recommending I get a vest now. If I could, if the wife would let me, I would run for sheriff. We are trying to push the thing nationwide right now, where just to mix it up and to get the topics out there is register to run for sheriff, NPA, no party affiliation, as a write-in, and that is completely free, and you can participate in the elections. And there's a lot of stuff. We got a guy, James McLinnis in Pinellas County, Tampa, who almost won. He experienced the corruption himself. The story is unbelievable. Look him up. It's mind-blowing what they did. It pissed him off. He is very, very smart. He has way more money than I did. He ran for sheriff at the last 3 months last year in 2016 and almost won. He got all of the black vote. And the reason why he did that is because he ran on, I will not bust, we're in Florida, I will not bust anybody for weed anymore unless it's an ungodly huge amount, like pounds. And then he also ran on no more victimless crimes, no more of this freaking road pirate bull crap. And then he was going to cut the budget by 30%. And when you think about that, you can. If you stop the road pirates, you can get rid of a bunch of people. Gone. So, the wife has been saying, yes, I can, yes, I can't. So I don't know. We're trying to find somebody that can do it because I am busy doing this anyways. But, so I'm making a video, like I said, that $1 a month from everybody, you know, for 53,000 subscribers, that is not working. I'm just letting you guys know. Absolutely give way more than $1 a month. If you can, I appreciate anything. By the way, remember too, when you give that, PayPal takes like freaking 15 to 20%, so it's even worse than that. But, and there again, like I'm letting you guys know, it's way, what I get is very, very low. Appreciate it, but it is very, very low. Can't live on it. I'm just, you know, I'm working, and that's what I'm working on. And that court case is going to cost a buttload of money. That's federal court. Just the filing fees and the depositions that we're going to be doing with this corrupt cop. So there's another reason to give. We are going to be doing a deposition with this very corrupt. He was in a drug squad. He is a bad guy. He's on steroids. We heard steroids are rampant here. That's why their attitude is so bad. And we are going to get him on video, and it will be on YouTube. So that case alone is $5,000 just to bring it to court, and that's my money out of my pocket. So there's another reason to give, and give way more than $1 if you can. So keep that in mind. This is the new video, and I see, God, I talk a lot. It's already 7 minutes, but had to make it just to let you know that $1 a month from everybody is not working. They're not doing it. So if you can give more than that, please. So thanks. Keep it up. Share, like, subscribe, tell your friends, send me your videos on corruption, and I'll post it.